Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Elmhurst City Hall. Today is Monday, November 19th, 2012. If you could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good to see Alderman Kennedy stood up for that.
And we have with us tonight via Skype Alderman Jim Kennedy, who we're actually going to call right now. So bear with us for a second. Alderman Kennedy's working remotely today, and we're glad to have him with us. With modern day technology, it's like having...
Thanks for calling Best Western Premier at the Kansas City Speedway. This is Lauren. How may I assist you?
Yes, Jim Kennedy, please.
1 second.
That's funny.
Pizza Palace, can I help you?
Alderman Kennedy, this is housekeeping calling. Thanks for checking in, Alderman. To make this meeting official tonight, ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Haza.
Here.
Gutenkopf.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Polumsky.
Here.
York.
Here.
Hipskin.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Morley. Absent. Wagner.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
13 present, 1 absent.
13 present, 1 absent. We have a quorum. And first item on today's agenda is the swearing in of our new fire chief, Bill Anishevitz. I'd ask Bill to meet me
Deputy.
down here to my right. Excuse me, Deputy Fire Chief. I apologize. Chief. Ambassador. Forgot to tell you this morning. No, I'm kidding. So, Mr. Anishevitz, if you please meet me by the podium, and if you'd like to bring your family, you're welcome to.
Public.
That's okay. Thanks, Bill. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Bill Anishevitz, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, the ordinances of the City of Elmhurst, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Deputy Fire Chief according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations. There we go. I encourage you to pass the city council here and shake all the hands of the alderman and our clerk and city manager. Does a great job. City attorney as well. Just so everybody knows, we do have the best fire department right next to our best police department in the state of Illinois. And we've got some of our Elmhurst finest going to be coming up a little bit later as well to get some accommodations. So. And it
Tell Bill's the camera's right there. Wave hi to Jim.
Very good. And we continue on our agenda. I'm just going to stay up here because we've got a lot of accolades, including recognition of our York State Championship cross-country team. If everybody doesn't know, I'm sure everybody knows by now that York broke the New York Yankees record and won number 28. There's not many teams that could say that. They're led by a great man. This man has coached for 50 years now? 60 years. God bless, huh? It couldn't come at a better time because this was the anniversary of the 50th anniversary of their first state title. I believe in 50 years, they had won 43 medals, or 44 championships, 44 trophies, which means you got to be first, second, or third in the state of Illinois. And I mean, there's just an incredible man. Coach Joe Newton was my coach. He was I believe, the first high school coach ever to be asked to coach the Olympics. 1988, Seoul, Korea. He's a legend. I'm going to stop talking because this is about him, not about me, and about a team that just was a dynasty team that did great things. Joe, why don't you come up and introduce your team? Joe Newton. Joe Newton.
No, that's good. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be alive at my age. I left my Sun Times there because I just read a quote from Governor Quinn. We got to get him to be governor quick. He's taking my pension away. I'm 83 years old. Pretty soon I got no money. So I might come to work for you, Pete. I'm proud to come. My goal for the last 5 years, I knew the New York Yankees had won 27 world titles, and then a gentleman that was sitting by me here tonight said the Montreal Canadiens have won 27, but we've won 28. So we're ahead of everyone, okay? And people give me a lot of credit, but the credit goes to the guys because they have to face the music. And this was really a tough year because the first day that we reported to practice in August, the poll came out. York of Elmhurst won. It's okay at that time. You're not thinking about it. But now you get down to 3 days before the state meet, the poll comes out. York, number one. Then you get down in the course, there's 15,000 people screaming and yelling, and our guys are going to the line. I'm thinking, Jesus, if we don't do good today, we're screwed. And son of a gun, they did it. And the secret is to do it on the day, not the day before, the week before, the day after, and they did it on the day. And then I want to tell you something about my team that will never make the newspapers. I've had a lot of teams. I started coaching cross country at York in 1960. So this finished my 52nd year at York as cross country coach. I've had a lot of great teams. But I can honestly say that this team is probably the nicest group of guys I have ever coached. I have a saying that I repeat many times during the year. It's nice to be great, but it's far greater to be nice. These guys are just tremendous. We go into the restaurant. I don't know if you've ever taken a group of young guys to a restaurant, but it's brutal. We make our... But to help delay things, we wear our suit, tie, and they got their B's on, and we come in, and it's all you can eat, and they have a guy about 25 that's waiting on our table, not a waiter, but a busboy. And about halfway through, we had 3 tables. The coaches are at one, and we're like a disease. All the other guys are over here. And the guy came to me, and I couldn't believe it. He whispered in my ear. He said, I'm going to tell you something. I've been doing this business for 10, 12 years, and he said, this is the nicest, most polite, quiet, kind guys I have ever waited on. That has nothing to do with running, but they're representing you in Elmhurst, and they're doing good things. And all the people, they're old people, they're saying, what are those bees on there? What's that for? And that's because our guys are like a bee. The scientists and biomechanics say that a bee can't fly. He's got a big body and his wings are that big. And then the bee said, well, pardon me, and he flew. So we started about 30 years ago with a bumblebee, and now the parents wear, and we go down, and they all got their bumblebee on because they're going to fly. And did they fly? We scored 82 points. The next team is 115 O'Fallon. That's a rout in cross country, but it's just they did their job on the day, and we got them here. We got our alternates here. We got our managers here, but some of them can't be here tonight because we had a parents' night tonight at school, checking on their kids. I'm going to talk. Before I make a long speech, is Zach Herrera here tonight? Zach is a senior. He was our 8th man, our 7th man, our 6th man, right on that very edge, and he missed running in the state meet by 2 feet in the final time trial. 2 feet, okay? But we took him along. He was an alternate. He's going to be a good runner in college. I want him to come up. Did he come up, Mayor? What do we do? Sure, come on up. Come on up, Zach. His grandma has cancer, and our guys dedicated half our season between he and Tom Arnold, my best friend who's got cancer, and Grandma, we're going to go see her pretty soon, and they're going to hang a medal around Grandma's neck, okay? Here's the next alternate. This guy is a junior, and we have a time trial. We take the altars down, and on Friday they run a time trial on the course. But it's murder, because the 40-some teams that are in a state meet are all practicing and warming up, and they block the whole course, so our guys are going like this. But our junior, our big guy, and I think I heard his dad, I think he might be up here. If you pop up here, no swearing tonight, Connor, okay? Connor York is going to be a great one next year. Connor York. Woo. The next guy, I asked Milling to give me his last name, and son of a gun, I forgot already. The guy moved up here about 35, 40 days ago. 2 days too late to actually be able to be on the team. The state law says you got to start at least 30 days before the state meet. He came in with 28 from Naples, Florida, and he can fly. I think he was second or third in our time trial down there. His first name is Julian, and then I think it's CQ, but I call him Naples. Come on up here, baby. Here's another junior. The guy is about 6'5" or 6'6". He should be playing center on the basketball team. Because he's growing so much, his knees are killing him all the time since he's a freshman. But I think he was fourth. We had eight guys that ran a time trial, and I think he was fourth, and he's back next year. He's going to be a good one. That's Jeff Nozak. Where's Nose? 6'5", I just guessed. How about it? All right, this guy's a freshman. How can a freshman qualify and go to the state meet? And I think he was second or third in that time trial on Friday. He's got 3 more years in the program. His name is John May. Come on up here, John. Next guy did not run one race the whole year. As a sophomore last year, he finished 17th in the state meet. He could have been right up there with Milling and Mimlets this year, but he got a stress fracture the second week of the season in the middle of his hip and never ran the rest of the season. You're going to win it next year. Nathan Mraz, come on up here. On here. All right, next guy's a junior, and I don't know, he was 7th or 6th in the time trial and has a lot of talent. If I can get him to work a little harder, that's Jeremy Damer. Jeremy, come on up. The next, Julio, is your dad here tonight? Where's Julio? Is Julio here tonight? That's forget Julio. How about sophomore Nathan Dale? Okay, Nathan, sophomore. How can he make it to the state meet? But he earned his job. He was in a time trial. He earned his position. And he's also a notorious international dancer. First, second, and third, I think, in 3 years in a row in an international dancing, Irish dancing. But he's a heck of a runner. Nathan. Then our athletic department allows us to bring a lot of managers, and every manager. Do we have any managers here before I go through all of this? All right, we'll try. And we take 7, and they got a job. Everybody's got a job, and most of them have to do with, we call Split, the only school that does this. They don't call it out loud, but they call the guy split when he goes by the quarter, the half, the 3/4. And when the race is over, we can see exactly what happened. And our managers do a heck of a job for me. Is Brian Baker here tonight? This guy does everything for me. I couldn't make it without him. Brian Baker, sophomore. Woo. Okay, we got 2 sophomores here, and the other 5 guys, or 4 guys deserted us. The first sophomore, and he still comes every day. Season's over, he comes to my office every day and helps me. We have an 800-page summary book that I got to get done before December 15th, because I'm flying to Phoenix. That big. He comes in every day, He transferred in from Steinmetz. My wife's aunt lived right by that high school. That's dangerous down there. I'm glad he came here. Here he is, Ricky Mendoza. Come on up, Rick. Okay, and we got one more sophomore, and he does a lot of writing for me, and he's very kind, and he lives right next to Mr. Arnold, and he's always asking me about you, and that's Teague Hagan. Come on up, Teague. And finally, here are the 7 guys that fought that pressure. And we have such a culture at York, it's just, you got to be there to see it. Everybody else in the state thinks we're killing them and they're all broken down and so on. We got 25 guys running in America right now. And they say the guys can't run. Well, these guys can run pretty darn good. And they're all, you got to be academically eligible. Mattis, okay? But we're going to start reverse order. Our 7th man was a sophomore. There were over 200 runners. He didn't have a great day, but he finished 115th, which means he beat almost 100 guys. But we got 2 more years. Last year, as a freshman in the state track meet, he ran 157, the fastest guy on our 2-mile relay. So he's got a great career coming. That's Matt Plowman. Here he comes. The Alamo. All right, our 6th guy. Jack, I think I lied to you. I said you were the number 1 6th guy in the meet, but when I checked it, I think you're number 2. That's pretty good in our state. The best, or close to the best, 6th man in the state. Out of over 200 runners, I think you just told me 46th. Is that correct? That means you beat 150 guys. I want a nice hand for Jack Liebert right here. These guys are unbelievably kind. We had our awards last Monday night, and people say that the greatest fear is not death, it's speaking in front of a group. We had 44 seniors, 43 of them got up and spoke. It was a long meeting, but some good stuff came out. Okay, here is our number 5 guy, and he's incredibly good. He's definitely the best 5th guy in the state. Most of the year, he was our 2nd or 3rd guy. He ran a great race in the sectional, got knocked down. About 3 guys stepped on his calf, and he was hurt for the state meet and then also for the regional that we got out of in Terre Haute last week. We're the only team in America that's qualified for the national meet 9 years in a row, the only team. And they did that last week. You beat that Jones that they said was going to kill us. You beat O'Fallon by 210 points. And this guy has been a real fine addition to our team. He's a great student. He's a great runner. It's my honor to introduce to you my number 5 guy, Chris May. Come on up here, Chris May. All right, we're down to number 4. The first day of practice, incidentally, my coaches can't be here tonight. Mariner is doing parent work at school. Hedman's got some night work. Coach Steele is working somewhere. And I think Coach Riddle might have died. I don't know where he's at. But I got the greatest assistants in America. All right? Now, I want to get back to my point. Day 1, Hedman says, this guy is going to make your top 5, trust me. I said, you must be smoking pot. Something's strange here. Guess what? He's our number 4 guy in the state meet with all that pressure on him. And I have several nicknames for him. Our first 4 guys were all with M's, okay? Even with Miraz out, we had all the M's. So his real name is Pasquami. That's close. But we call him Menestrom, so that we got 5 M's. The greatest race of his life when it counts the most. That's my definition of a warrior. You do your best when it counts the most. Now, I'm going to try to see if I get that right exactly. This is Alex Pasquami. Come on up. Woo. now we're getting down to it. Our third guy, Alex Mimlets. When he was a freshman, he was unbelievable. And as a sophomore, he was unbelievable. I think he was 18th or 19th or something as a sophomore. Hurt his whole junior year. Hurt the whole year. Had a stress fracture. Came back a little apprehensive early, and he ran his best when it counts the most. And his Pasquami's was 17 on the team score. Mays was 39, and Mimlets was 14, I think. Okay? He's one of our all-time greats, and a lot of colleges are looking for him, and he's a great student. Where's Alex Mimlets? Come on up here. Woo! He's also our co-captain, one of our two co-captains, voted by his teammates, and at York, boy, that's an honor. Here's our second guy, and even though I got to tell this story. 2 weeks from the end of the season, academic comes out. This guy's got an F in history and a D- in physics. If the D- goes to F, he doesn't run. I mean, I was having a stroke. But some way or other, I think Dad pounded the heck out of him, and he ended up staying with an F and a D-, and he got to run in a state meet, and he's our second guy in the state meet. Thank God. He's back next year. He's a junior. He's a competitor on meet day, I'll tell you that. If you worked in the classroom as hard as you work for us, you'd be something better. Kyle Mattis, come on up here, Mattis. Woo! And last but not least, this guy is, by his teammates, voted as most valuable. By his teammates, voted as co-captain with Mims. I got a picture that I showed him today of a Tribune guy that took a picture with 600 yards into the race. There's about 30 guys there, and he's right in the front. And then back maybe 6 or 7 yards, I see the top of May's head, which means at that time he's right in the hunt with 600 run in the race, down around the first curve, coming back down the straightaway. Every race that he ran this year, Scott Milling did his best when it counted the most. His raw score, I think Mattis, you were 13, Alex was 14, Pastrama was 17, and this guy was third when they took the people out that were individuals. One of York's all-time great runners. He's got no muscles, he's got no speed, but a fighting heart. What a guy. Scott Milling right here. Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for York of Elmhurst, first in state. Woo!
Good job, Coach.
Norm. Oh, yeah. Congratulations. Good job. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for your work.
We will be taking the team down to Springfield on December 5th to recognize them during veto session.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
I'd like to thank City Attorney Storino for
Good job.
helping us cover some of those costs, too, to do that.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
I won.
Good job.
Don't say any bad words, your father. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
I'm watching you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, don't know.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Are you the one with no muscles? Congratulations.
Nice job. Way to run. Way to go.
Anytime. Catcher.
Physics don't matter anyway.
Okay, I timed this.
Congratulations, Coach. Beautiful job. That was fun.
There's only one lead.
My son and I play football and run cross country.
I didn't hear about this.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's a team and
Yes, what you think? As of today, yes. Okay.
As our runners and their families exit the room, we'll go to our next item on the agenda, which, this is a special meeting. Not only do we have, for me, this is my last public meeting, so this is very near and dear to me. But to see our coach go out on top is just huge. So, excuse me. I recognize some police officers did some amazing things, and because of the circumstances involving the situation, I can't get too specific. But all I can tell you is these officers that are getting these accommodations tonight did some great things and saved a life. With that said, I have several officers to recognize, and the first officer is Officer Steve Wright. Steve, you here tonight? No. Okay. I'll give these off to the chief in case, so you can get these to the proper people. Let's see, we have Sue Berry. Is Sue Berry in the room? No? All right. We had a lot of officers on this, so I apologize. But Tim Jorgensen. Tim Jorgensen here? Tim, come on up here. Commendation is from me, Mayor Pete DeCiani, to Officer Tim Jorgensen for service above the call of duty. Tim, congratulations.
Thanks,
Officer Laurel Panico, is she here tonight? Laurel? No? Okay. Sergeant Steve Weatherford, is he in the room? No. All right, these will go. And these last two awards go to two very special people who were very, very deeply involved in the situation. And again, because it involves a juvenile, I can't say a lot about what happened here. But both of these guys risked their lives to make the situation a better situation. And the first person, Detective Frank Viscani. And the second person that risked his life, and both of these guys are true heroes, Sergeant Lenny Kopak. Come on up, Len. You know, we talk about what makes Elmhurst great, and at the end of the day, it's about the people. And who you're looking at here are some of the finest that we have to offer, and I wanted to make sure that this situation did not go without the attention that these guys deserve. So let's have a round of applause for the best of the best.
Sergeant Steve, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Left hand on you.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks. Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Lots to celebrate here in Elmhurst, Illinois, and we go on to the next portion of our meeting, which is actually a presentation, Energy Impact Illinois. This will be a brief presentation that this gentleman, Matt Elmore, will be giving. Matt, if you would be so kind to take that away, we appreciate it.
Can I pull this off?
Sure.
Is that all right? Okay, great. Well, thank you all for having me. I'm going to keep this brief, just to 5 minutes. I know you've got a lot more to cover tonight. I want to thank Alderman Gutenkopf for coordinating this, and City Manager Grabowski for having me out today. So I'm here to talk to you about Energy Impact Illinois. We are a residential energy efficiency program available to all residents, homeowners in Elmhurst. I've got this very high-tech PowerPoint presentation right here. I know some of you can't see this, but I have flyers and cards that I can pass around, and we can talk after the meeting if any of the aldermen want to talk. So Energy Impact Illinois is a residential energy efficiency program. We are funded by federal stimulus dollars, and how we came to be was an organization called the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, which is an organization that works with government agencies at all levels, whether that be counties, townships, cities, to do planning for the Chicagoland 7-county area. And several years ago, they noticed a need for a residential energy efficiency program for the entire Chicagoland area. So what they did was they applied to the Federal Department of Energy through the Stimulus Act and were awarded a grant for $25 million to create this energy efficiency program. The reason they did this is that the larger Chicago region, including Elmhurst, has some of the least efficient homes in the country, largely due to age. But we also have large swings of temperature. So, we have cold winters and warm summers. And so they recognize a need in the community for energy efficiency program for homeowners. So they put together an alliance. That alliance included local governments, so working with cities, counties, and townships across the Chicagoland area. They got together a lot of nonprofits, the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, the Center for Neighborhood Technology. We've got the Delta Institute, a lot of nonprofits, and I'm on the non-for-profit side as well, doing outreach and education. And we also do have a partnership with the utilities. So for most of you here, or I assume everyone here, that's ComEd and NICOR. They're the ones that provide the rebates for the program. So one thing I want to say before I go on is that we're an advocate and resource for homeowners. I am entirely on the non-for-profit education and outreach side. My goal is to educate homeowners about our program and try to get this rebate money back to as many homeowners as possible. So in terms of energy efficiency, I think we've all been kind of bombarded by ways you can make your home more energy efficient, but our program focuses on the lowest cost, most effective energy efficiency upgrades possible. So I'm not going to go into detail about this too much, but we focus on air sealing and insulation. So the best way to think about this is when we all go out in the winter, we all need a sweater and a windbreaker to keep us warm. A home is very similar. Air sealing is the windbreaker. You need to keep the wind out of your home, and insulation is the sweater. And when you put these two together and you have a home that's sufficiently air sealed and insulated, you truly have an energy efficient home. Especially in Elmhurst, which has a lot of older homes, those homes can benefit from our program. So the process is pretty simple. We offer discounted energy efficiency assessments. We have a group of highly qualified contractors that are certified by the Building Performance Institute that do the work. And we offer instant rebates and loans for homeowners who participate in the program. So I'll get into a little bit more detail about that in a second. So who's eligible for the program? I imagine most of you in Elmhurst are single-family homes. Most condos and townhomes are eligible, and then if you happen to be a landlord of a 2 to 4 unit building, those are also eligible. So why do most homeowners participate in this program? I think most of us know when you upgrade your home's energy efficiency, you're going to save money on your utility bills. The average home, now this is the average, but the average home that goes through our program saves $500 a year on their utility bills. But I think a lot of people, after they go through the program, would have gone through it just for the comfort increase. You know, a lot of us have grown up in older homes and have just become used to having drafts, having some rooms colder than others. You know, it doesn't have to be like that. And that's one of the benefits of going through our program and upgrading your insulation and air sealing is that your comfort level is going to be increased dramatically in some circumstances. Home value, we've also seen in other areas of the country where homes who go through this or similar programs have home values boosted by 4 to 9%. So that's a nice added bonus. And then in terms of safety, all of our energy assessments include safety checks as well. So a lot of us have small gas leaks, things that aren't too terribly dangerous but are good to seal up, and our energy assessments are include safety checks. So in terms of the math, just so you guys don't think that this is costing tens of thousands of dollars, our program focuses on the lowest cost upgrades, and in general that means less than $1,000 out of pocket after our rebates are applied. So our rebates cover 70% of the work completed with a maximum of $1,750. So usually we have homeowners have about $750 out of pocket for work that would usually cost $2,500 or so. So just the last slide here, how you can get involved. So we have, like I mentioned, discounted energy assessments. These are completed by a nonprofit partner of ours called Conservation Services Group. And the assessment includes 2.5 to 3 hours of our assessor looking at your home comprehensively, every possible thing that can be upgraded in your home. And then at the end of it, they actually give you a report that details all the possible upgrades you can make, how much it costs, the payback for each upgrade, as well as how much the rebates will cover for each of those. In addition to the assessment report, you get a bunch of free stuff involved. So they call them direct install measures. That includes 10 free CFL light bulbs if you need them, low flow shower heads, faucet aerators, and piping for hot water heaters if you don't have that. And that's included on the spot if you don't want it, or if you do want it, sorry. And last thing, so I think, and Alderman Gutenkopf has participated in this, the unique part about our program is that the way we spread it, in addition to community meetings like this, is having people host house parties. And we ask homeowners to invite 5 to 10 family and friends who they think would benefit or be interested in the program. And we actually have a contractor show all the people firsthand how they can upgrade their homes. They use all the tools. We have infrared cameras, blower door tests, you name it. We can do it in front of people, and that really gives people a better idea of how their home can be upgraded, and then usually that gets them more likely to participate. So I'm going to leave it at that. I know that's a lot of information all at once, but I have a sign-up sheet in the back if you are interested in learning more and having me follow up, and I'm happy to answer any questions outside afterwards. But I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. All right. Move on to receipt of written communications and petitions from the public. At this time, is there anyone written communications and or petitions from the public? Please stand and present those to Clerk Spencer. Mr. Algram. Anyone else? Okay. We will then move on to public forum. I would ask Clerk Spencer, has anyone signed up for public forum tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have a few. I'll start with Scott Algram, 567 South Spring Road.
And Scott, we appreciate you coming out tonight. As you know, our rules are 3 minutes for public forum, and we appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
I'm Scott Algram, 567 South Spring Road in Elmhurst, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Spring Road Business Association, and I'd just like to read the letter that we presented tonight. Dear Mr. Grabowski, thank you for meeting with us on October 18th, 2012, to discuss the proposed Irish Spring 5K race to be held prior to the Elmhurst St. Patrick's Day Parade. As we mentioned at that meeting, the first time the race was brought to the attention of the Spring Road Business Association was at our October 4th meeting. After a review of your letter of recommendation to the City Council and the written presentation from the runner's soul, we were surprised to find that under the heading of endorsements, it states, prior to defining the race, we contacted all key members of the organizations and local merchants associated with the St. Patrick's Day Parade and the course. Both Todd Benson of the Spring Road Business Association and Jim O'Connor of the Elmhurst St. Patrick's Day Parade support our plan to present a race prior to the parade and welcome the additional exposure it will bring to both Spring Road Business District and the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And also under the summary, and I quote, we have the support and approval of the Spring Road District. Both statements are not true, as no one representing the Irish Spring 5K race had approached the Spring Road Business Association or made any sort of presentation at any of our meetings prior to October 4th. The Spring Road Business Association certainly appreciates that the proper procedure was followed with regards to the city's review and approval of the Irish Spring 5K race. Our concern is that the information that you based your decision on was not true. In the future, please contact the Spring Road Business Association directly regarding issues that will impact the Spring Road Business Association. Phone numbers of our officers can be found on our website, www.springroad.com, or you may contact our secretariat at info@springroad.com. Any endorsement or recommendation is requested from the Spring Road Business Association. Please ask the organization to secure that in writing from an officer of the Spring Road Business Association for their presentation to you. We appreciate having the proper lines of communication with our association and look forward to a continued flow of information between us. Sincerely, the Spring Road Business Association, Pasquale Marisi, President, and Scott Algram, Vice President. Spring Road Business Association knows that you, the council, and the committee acted with trust and integrity based on the information that you had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys.
My name is Claude Pagach. I live 566 West Gladys. On the agenda is a tax increase for the people of Elmhurst. What I'd like to do is remind you aldermen of certain factors. And these numbers come from the Treasurer's report from 2010 forward. In 2010, the residents of Elmhurst paid $6.1 million in property taxes. Then we heard it costs money to run a city. 2011, we paid $10,800,000. It's a nice jump. Then we got this little issue about the hospital. Needed $200,000. A couple of the aldermen said, hey, let's just take it from and put it on the side. Nah, I can't do that. So we got a tax increase. Paid $11,547,000. This issue with the hospital, I hate to say it, but if you read the Daily Herald, is a dead issue. Investor-owned hospitals just got a $10 to $15 million break from the state legislature. It's the law. The governor signed it. And the guy that pushed it through the House is now head of the Illinois House Association. And don't make me want to believe that the other hospitals are just going to sit on their hands. Then, lo and behold, at the last meeting, we had a new chief of police. I invest in the police department. I sent them to school, let them go to lectures. Out of all the guys that have reached rank, not one of them, not even the assistant chief of police, was qualified to take over the office. What am I investing money in him for? Same thing happened with the sewage treatment plant. Had to go to Oklahoma. Now, one of those guys down there that go to lectures and go to school were qualified to move up. Fascinating, ain't it? And then lo and behold, what really set the meeting off for me last week was Kennedy. He's not here, but I hope he can hear me. I really don't appreciate the fact that you let somebody you already have a contract with send out bills for removal of electrical.
Glad you're coming up on your 3 minutes. You got about 10 seconds.
Yeah, I understand. You got a building department. And then what really made me happy was when he said, you guys went to him, the very guys you got hired, accepted their bids for coring and for layout work, survey work, and you didn't even go out for bids. You took their price, you went to the building department, and they nodded their
You're past
head.
your 3 minutes. I'm sorry. I've given you about an extra 20 seconds. I'm sorry.
Well, Mayor, you won't be
Everybody.
around. I won't have to worry about 3 minutes.
Have a nice night, Claude.
Next, we have Mary Ann Mapes, 124 North York.
Good evening, I'm Mary Ann Mapes. I'd like to thank the Police Department, the Fire Department, and the City Council. The Irish Spring 5K Parade is planned for March 9th, 2013, and we're pleased to announce that we've selected the Elmhurst YMCA and Special Kids Day as our two local charities which will benefit from the proceeds of this race. We look forward to serving our community through these charities and working with the Spring Road District to make this a great event and a great day. And as we've seen by 28, we definitely are a town of runners. So thank you.
Thank you.
Terry Pastica, 182 North York Road.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have two brief items. One has to do with the committee report, the Walnut vacation. I had an opportunity to sit in at the committee meeting last week where this item was discussed, and I was pleased to see that rather than an initial proposal for the city to give the vacation of property away for nothing to the applicant, there was a negotiated price. So that was great. Thank you. Although, my job is to push you guys to do better. So the point I'm coming tonight is that I'm asking the council to revisit the amount that was negotiated on and reconsider it based on the current policy that the city has, which asks the council to start the assessed valuation, to start the negotiations at 50% of the assessed valuation of that property. And I'm sure those who sit on the committee are going to talk a little bit more about it, but I think this is an opportunity for the council to think about, even though some members of the committee may feel like the property doesn't have value because you can't build on it. The property certainly has value to those who are going to be receiving it, and for those of you who engage in negotiations in your private lives, obviously that's a starting point. So that's number one. Number two, I see on the agenda tonight there was an executive session item for selections of persons to fill a public office. My assumption is that because of the timing of all this, this had to do with talking about appointing a mayor. And if that's the case, even though the Open Meetings Act allows this, which shows you how weak the statute is, frankly, the allowance to go into executive session are all discretionary exemptions. And frankly, the discussion of who's going to be mayor for the next 5 months is an item of public concern, the entire discussion of which should be made in public. This is not an item for executive session in any way, shape, or form. And from my perspective, this is another example of the council looking to find an excuse to go into executive session to talk about items that are clearly items for public discussion. And I think it's wrong. It's not an open and transparent process, and your expectation should be higher as well as all of ours. I know mine are. And lastly, I find it hard to believe that some of you on the council really don't think that that was an appropriate thing to do. I really believe that some of you on the council know that that was an inappropriate discussion to have, and I think that it's time for those of you who know better to start doing better, because there are people here who back you up on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tamara McHugh, 611 South Linden Avenue. Couldn't read the writing.
Yes, good evening, 611 South Linden. I'm Tamara McHugh. I just wanted to say a couple words on behalf of what Matt said. I think he's still here from Energy Impact Illinois, both as a resident and as a representative of Elmhurst Cool Cities. We did undertake the program at our household, and it was easy. The contractors were very receptive, frankly, more than most contractors I've dealt with. No offense to anyone that might be in the room. There are real cost savings, and I would encourage not only for fellow community members to take part in it if you live in an older home like I do, but I would also encourage the city to look for ways to encourage our residents to do so, because we do have so many older homes, and that money, we can have more comfortable homes, better home values, and that money can go back into the community. So it is a wonderful program, so thank you.
Thank you.
Last, we have E.F. Todd Benson, 391 River Glen.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Aldermen and fellow residents, and also congratulations, Mr. Mayor, on your election. I'm not one to stand up and scream or shout or send out a press release, but I was also reminded that I am remiss that since the last time I addressed this group that I did not notify you that in the early part of the summer I accepted an appointment from Dan Cronin, County President of DuPage County, to serve on the Ethics Commission, and I currently serve as an Ethics Commissioner, and I just thought I'd make that known. I'm here this evening as president of the Growy Woods Betterment Association. That's the homes that are up on North and 83 to West Avenue and by Mary Queen. And that area was one of the earliest neighborhood block associations in the state of Illinois back to the 30s. It was a private area only incorporated into Elmhurst in the 60s. Just to give you a reason why there is an association. I want to thank Alderman Leader and Alderman Dunn, who have responded to what some people say in Elmhurst is a rash of burglaries. I don't think so. It's just something you need to know about. And they've asked to set up a meeting with our new Chief of Police, Ruth, who's quite frankly stepped up to the plate with the entire community enforcement theme, and I love that. So there's a meeting on the 6th of December, so thank you for that. And also, just quickly, because I have about 30 seconds left, thank you for Alderman Leader for politically, delicately, and most sensitively handling a matter. We at the association and the blocks support and like the development at 83 and North Avenue. I applaud them for responding to the city's suggestions that they clean up the corner, and they've done a tremendous job recently. I hope they get rented out fully. I also want to thank Alderman Leader and a call out to Phil Tattaglia, who is an enforcement officer, for doing his job about 2 weeks ago. Enough said. I thank you very much, and a good meeting, and good luck, Mayor.
Thank you, Todd.
That concludes a public forum. As far as who signed in, I don't know, Mr. Mayor, if anyone else would like to come to the microphone.
Okay. I will close the public forum at this time and ask, move on to our consent agenda, and ask if anyone has a question. Oops, excuse me, announcements. Anybody for announcements? I apologize. Alderman Plumsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
This year, the city is collecting used and non-working holiday lights again between December 1st and February 1st. So keep that in mind once you pull out your lights this weekend or as soon as you do it. Thank you.
Very good. I also wanted to mention, not here tonight, but certainly not missed, was Emma Fisher. And Emma Fisher is an individual who took second in the state this year for York, represented at Elmhurst, did a great job. She actually shattered the course record by, I think, 15 seconds. And so she has the second best time. Actually, the girl that was just in front of her, we had 2 course records that day set, but one of them was by Emma Fisher. I just can't say enough. She will be on the bus with us, along with Coach Schulte, and with the boys going down to Springfield in December 5th. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. The girls, can't miss the girls. Alderman Pezza.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that this Saturday, the 24th, is Small Business Day. We have many wonderful small businesses here in town. It's a great time and place to start your holiday shopping. We have many small business owners right here tonight before us. I want to thank all the small business owners, because without them, I'm sure our tax base would be a lot smaller. And once again, you know, the Got It in Elmhurst campaign, I think we should all try to practice what we preach, and let's remember all our small business owners this Saturday.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other announcements? Hearing none, we'll move on. Oh, Alderman Dunn, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick one. I don't know if anyone caught the Tribune recently, but they ranked some of our municipal areas greatest places to work, and large, medium, and small size companies, and our very own Elmhurst Library was listed in the top 10 of one of those great places to work. So that's an impressive accomplishment. It's a great library, and we're proud that they're recognized as such. Thanks.
And we'd like to thank Mary Beth Camp and the whole board over there for doing a great job making that library a success. Actually, Monica Icano is here today from our board. Monica. So we've got some good people out there watching over things, so we appreciate that. Anybody else? Any other announcements? Okay, move on to the consent agenda. Anybody has a question or possibly would like to vote no on any particular item, please indicate that at this time. Okay. At this time, I ask for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda in its entirety. Alderman Levin with a motion, Alderman York with a second. Clerk Spencer, if you'd be so kind to call the roll.
Levin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Morley, absent. Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner. Heza.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Polumsky.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. The consent agenda passes in its entirety. Move on to item 10, committee reports. And Clerk Spencer, if you'd be so kind to read the recommendation of 10A, please.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Works and Buildings Committee to authorize the city attorney to prepare the appropriate documents to allow the vacation of Walnut Street north of Fullerton Avenue to Superior Ambulance for the fee of $5,129.39 plus legal fees. Respectfully submitted, Public Works and Buildings Committee. Signed by Jim Kennedy, Chairman, Bob Dunn, Vice Chairman, Diane Gutenkopf, and unsigned by Chris Healy.
And at this time, I entertain a motion and a second to put this recommendation on the floor, please. Vice Chairman Dunn, with second by Alderman Gutenkopf. In discussion, Vice Chairman Dunn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to recap our discussions from the other night, we have a piece of property that is currently owned by the city. It is at the dead end of the north end of Walnut Street, north of Lake, in an industrial area, and we have 2 lots to the west of that are currently owned by Superior Ambulance. One of those has a property on it, and then 1 lot to the east of that. Superior Ambulance made a request to vacate that property. I was just over there the other day. It basically is a unimproved driveway area, and that particular property has 2 easements going through it, one for a sanitary pipe and also one for a water main. Through some of our discussions, and looking at the current city policy, which is to examine the EAV of nearby properties, and to start the discussion at valuing that property at 50% of that value. Through that calculation, that particular lot was valued at $9,677.85. We looked at the value of that property as such, and through some negotiations with Superior Ambulance, who was the requester to vacate that particular parcel, looking at the costs that they would need to incur to attempt to utilize that property. One element was the water main that has to remain. That is a large water main that loops around to some properties behind it. That cannot be removed, but at some point it could be removed at what we're estimating to be a cost of $140,000. Should that occur, the cost of that would be borne by the owner of the property and not the city. Also, the sanitary sewer is right now it's a main, but it dead ends into the vacant property, so that makes vacating that main quite a bit simpler, and what would be done is to add a manhole at the beginning of the property and then let that particular sanitary line become just a service line to that property. That particular cost was estimated to be $2,000. The cost of legal fees for acquiring this property were estimated at $1,000. So those were subtracted from the initial 50% value that was estimated to arrive at a figure of $5,129.39, which the three committee members that were present that evening support it and sign the report as such. The intent is for Superior Ambulance to for the city to vacate that property to Superior Ambulance so that they might sell that to the John Saycash Corporation, which is just south of these parcels. And this particular company, John Saycash, is a highly successful business in Elmhurst, contributing a large amount of sales tax revenue in addition to property tax for the city. And they were looking at moving their business out of state to Indiana when this opportunity came about to allow them to remain in Elmhurst. And I think it's imperative that the city works hard with these businesses to allow them to continue to grow and be successful in Elmhurst. In addition, the Superior Ambulance is going to utilize the proceeds from that particular sale of those 3 lots to Saycash to improve their larger property, which is 50 yards or so to the east. It's quite a large property, the Rotec property, and that will allow them to continue to grow their business. And they are also a very successful business in Elmhurst and a contributor to the city in terms of revenues. So it's a great effort for the city to look at this particular project and to move forward with it. And at this point, I'll open it up to anyone else that wants to comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn. Any other discussion or questions? Alderman Gutenkopf.
I just have a couple of things I'd like to add. And first, I'd like to thank my fellow committee members who were involved in the discussion about this vacation. Initially, the committee sentiment, as the public forum speaker mentioned, was to vacate this at no cost. But we had a very serious discussion about what the role of the city council is in establishing prices for property that's owned for and by all of the taxpayers. And I think after a very fruitful discussion about how important it is for us to value all taxpayer assets, we were able to enter into negotiations with the requester of the vacation and settled on a price that I think is appropriate for the property, especially given the encumbrance of the water main line that comes through it. I think we did begin our discussion with the city policy, so while I appreciate the sentiment that was expressed. I think it is important to note that that number, while it may not have been in the forefront of our discussion at the committee meeting, was certainly in the forefront of our minds. We knew what the EAV was for the property, and that is where we really started our conversation. And I appreciate Superior Ambulance coming to us with this project that is going to be very beneficial to the entire Lake and Walnut TIF district, and that they were equally fair in their approach to the negotiation over the price. So while I am the first person to sit up here and argue that all land has value, I think we've come to an appropriate point in this discussion, and I encourage the rest of the city council members to support this vacation.
Very good. Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for the record, I did not sign the report because I was not present at the discussion. However, I do full support the report wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As one of the longer-serving aldermen on the dais, I want to give some background on the sensitivity as well as the multitude of discussions that happen in regards to sale or vacating property to various entities, residents as well as commercial. Over the years we've discussed, or at least over my years, we've discussed it many a times. I have a lot of information here from the city provided to us of the history of the dealings that we've had with residents as well as some commercial entities, like in this case. In regards to the commercial entities, the City of Elmhurst, the City Council, no matter at what time, has charged anywhere from $0, which in my personal opinion is not the appropriate thing to ever do, but $0 to over $17 a square foot. The current proposal by the committee, and I do appreciate the committee's work on this because as I've already stated, it's a very sensitive topic, and one that I'm actually surprised came out of committee after one or two discussions due to the sensitivity of this. But as I was saying, this parcel is being provided or at least proposed to be provided for $1.30 a square foot. 66 feet wide, 235 feet in depth, which is 14,889 square feet. That was the starting discussion, as Alderman Gutenkopf and I think Alderman Dunn has stated, which our policy, which I'm glad the committee decided to follow our policy. The policy does state that we should start at that point. It doesn't mean start and go below. It means start negotiations at that point. For some reason, and I'm not sure why, that start always seems to mean start and reduce cost or reduce the sale price compared to start and see if the property is worth more. I personally would love to cut a $5,000, approximately a $5,000 check and get a 66 by 235 lot with no buildings on the site. I think that is utterly cheap. There are some benefits of providing this to, or going forward with this proposal. As I believe Alderman Dunn stated, if the plans go as what is proposed, at least what the committee was told, the building size would increase, therefore, in theory, we would receive or see some more tax dollars. But let's keep in mind, there's a huge benefit to the person receiving this land. They wouldn't be able to build the property as large as they would without us vacating this property. Once again, $5,000 is utterly ridiculous in my mind. No offense intended to the committee, but that is way too cheap. Our past history, our past precedent shows us from anywhere from $0 to over $17 a square foot for vacating property to commercial businesses. For some reason, we decided, well, 0 is appropriate, and then we tweaked it and went a little bit higher than that. Tonight, we're talking about a sale or tax rate levy. And here we are, in my estimation at least, we're giving away property for $5,000. How could we talk about a sales tax levy and give what I believe is worth value, at least in my mind, more value than $5,000 and change, away to anybody, be it a resident or a commercial developer? So I cannot personally support this report because I take every piece of property that the city owns, if there's any encumbrance or not, which let me say that the encumbrance is minor because the only real encumbrance is the water main, which is probably, I don't know, the 1/3 of the piece of right-of-way. And according to what I've been told from the committee discussions, the proposal is to build a surface parking lot anyway, so it's not hampering at all the proposed development on this right-of-way. So I can't support this report. I think that we've not only started too low, but we've minimized the value of one of the City of Elmhurst residents' asset, which is property. So I encourage all of you to keep in mind as we continue to increase everything here, be it permit fees, be it tax levy, et cetera, that the value here is the land that the city owns, and we should really, really make sure we get what's due to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman. Any other discussion or questions? Alderman Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This might be for the Vice Chairman Dunn. In the committee, I wasn't able to attend the committee meeting, but I did notice that John Sakash's son, I believe, who runs the company, attended the committee.
Yes,
as well as then Dave Hill from Superior, correct?
Right. Yes.
Now, I don't know exactly, this may be for Finance Director Gaston as well, what the tax revenue from John Sakash Company is for the city of Elmhurst. Was that discussed?
We looked at the what we would estimate the property value, the tax revenue for this vacated land to be $1,800 and some a year, I think it was, which we're not getting now. Okay. Since we own it. We didn't get any data on what John Sakash and Sons currently pays in property tax, and sales tax is confidential, so that wasn't shared either. But
right. They're
in the top tier of businesses in Elmhurst.
My only concern, and I do support the report, so I think it's well written, is if they leave town, what effect does that have? It's kind of a what-if statement, but I'd hate to see anybody leave town if we can't, if the report doesn't pass. So I'm in full support of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Absolutely. Any other discussion? Alderman Pezza.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I appreciate the committee going above zero. I actually think this price is a joke. And if the joke weren't on the Elmhurst taxpayers, I might even be laughing. But it really isn't a laughing matter. I believe this is very poor practice to give away or practically give away land for almost free. Mark Twain once said, buy land, they're not making it anymore. That's because land has value, always has, always will. And we're landlocked here in Elmhurst. Land has value. Elmhurst is famous for giving away or selling very, very cheaply the taxpayers' land. When we're buying land with taxpayer dollars, however, we historically pay top dollar or more for that land. You could go back and check it all out. The records are there. The reason for the 50%, I believe, when they made that policy, was a starting point. And rather than taking 50% of what is another concerning item to me, and it's a whole other story, but I plan on looking into this further. When you look at the map of surrounding parcels, some of these parcels, the assessor has them EAV of 84 cents a square foot. That's alarming to me. Doesn't make any sense. I know land, I know values. Elmhurst, 84 cents a foot, something I think we need to look into. But besides that, you start at the 50%, and how about instead of minusing out all these things extra that they're saying they need to do, which they knew they needed to do in order to purchase the land and do what they want with it, that's why it's 50%. I'm thinking perhaps we should have been adding on because there's been expenses to the city in order to do this. For instance, our consultant, Mr. Van Slyke, has billed the city, the taxpayers, to do work, which it just says talk to people. I'm not sure what that work was, but if you look at the work he has billed just of late, it's in excess of $1,000 to the taxpayers to do research or whatever it is on properties that we're looking at. So I think that should have been added to the cost of whatever it is they're supposed to be paying, because that's your land, and you paid to have this work done on behalf of this parcel. You know, the other concerning piece to me here is that not only does that consultant who charged you to do the research, to whatever it was, once again, the billing was very generic for these parcels, also works for the consultant that is representing and working for Superior, who's asking for this land. So this is a very convoluted process here. I think it's something we need to pay attention to, look further into. I know the committee is looking further into this in another week or two, continued discussion. So taking all these things into account, I cannot support this. Elmhurst is valuable. Your homes are valuable. The land your homes sit on are valuable. Every piece of land in this town has value, and I think it's a sad day that we would say that this is all this very large piece of property is worth to the Elmhurst taxpayers. So I do not support this.
Thank you, Alderman. I know Alderman Kennedy would like to speak. Alderman Kennedy, you there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, first of all, thank the committee for their time tonight to start the conversation. We had a spirited discussion. It was more than 90 minutes, so that was the reason we ultimately were able to take care of this issue in one meeting. You know, I think we're talking about two very good businesses here, Superior Ambulance and Saycash. They are businesses that have enjoyed being in Elmhurst, and we've enjoyed having them in Elmhurst, and we want to keep it that way. We heard from representatives from Saycash that they pay more than $60,000 a year in Elmhurst city taxes, and overall I think it was about $260 in total taxes that they pay. You know, I know that there's always a point that all vacations are not created equal, and all land is not created equal. Certainly, it has value, and it's often debated as to the extent of that value. I think starting with the policy, as Alderman Dunn highlighted in our discussion, we ultimately came to a fair price that I think is a good one, and I would ask that others support this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Dunn.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Polumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Morley, absent. Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Pezza.
No.
It looks like 11 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 absent.
11 ayes, 2 nays, 1 absent. The report passes. We'll move on to item 10B, recommendation. Item 10B, item 1. And clerks. Oh, excuse me. Okay.
10B.
We've got a revision on the agenda. There was a minority report that has been dropped, so we'll go right to the majority report. I would ask Clerk Spencer to read the recommendation, please.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council approve the City of Elmhurst 2012 tax levy in the amount of $9,170,597. Furthermore, it is the recommendation of the Finance Committee that the City Council approve the abatement of the current debt service obligation for the city's general obligation bonds that is not allocated to the general fund or the capital improvement fund in the amount of $2,830,162. Respectfully submitted, Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee, signed by Stephen W. Hipskin, Chairman, Kevin L. York, Vice Chairman, and Scott M. Levin, and unsigned by Mark A. Mulliner.
And I would entertain a motion in a second, please. Mr. Chairman Hipskin, Vice Chairman York with a second. Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
So this is our annual tax levy, and the good news here is that we are reducing the taxes to the Elmhurst citizens by 1%. Elmhurst has been conservative, and really we've had a lot of increase in revenues. We've kept our costs down, so the committee felt that it is time to give back to the Elmhurst citizens. It's 1%. This is your taxes going down. The city of Elmhurst is reducing your taxes, and it's done through efficiency and good government, and we're very proud. So I move that we accept this report as written.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? Oh, Alderman Healy, and I'll go to Alderman Mulliner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last year, I was one of a few aldermen that argued that we had the ability last year to reduce the levy by some $200,000, and that effort failed, and it failed for all good reasons. This year, looking at the numbers and a lot of what Alderman Hipskin said, I don't need to repeat, but the numbers for this year are trending much more positively than we expected. Some of that is due to one-time occurrences, which we know won't repeat, but we are still trending much better than expected, to the tune of about $1.4 million that will be added to the general fund balance. Or, said another way, that's a $1.4 million surplus. All of this while we still provide the same great level of services that the Elmhurst residents have come to expect. I think this year, like I did last year, that we are in a position to do more, much along the lines of what Chairman Hipskin said. I would like to see us increase the amount of the decrease because we're in position to this year. That doesn't mean that next year we'll be in the same position, but I think this year, because of the careful spending habits we've developed, because of the revenue enhancements that we've had, we know sales tax revenues are up, we know state grants are up, which is one of those non-recurring benefits. But I think because we are in position this year and because we did get a couple of these bonuses, if you will, I think we should do more, put more money back into the community. Therefore, I move that we decrease the Part 1 levy by 2.5%, which is approximately $225,000, and leave the Part 2 levy, which is the hospital aspect, the same. Further, I think we should direct staff to defer that same approximate amount of the decrease of $225,000 to revenue for the next fiscal year, which in effect means that we will show less of a surplus this year. Thank you.
A motion? Question?
On 11.
Just so I understand what you're saying, you want to defer part of the money we're levying this year to be put aside for next year, or for 2013 into the following fiscal year?
No, I'm not motioning to defer part of the levy. I'm motioning to defer part of the surplus, the $1.4 million surplus, to the next fiscal year to be counted as revenue, not as surplus this year.
I don't believe that's in order. I mean, we're talking about a tax levy for the city and not what we're going to do with the funds.
The amendment fails for lack of a second, Alderman. I'm sorry. We go to the underlying report here. Alderman Mulliner.
Yeah, as everybody's aware of, I did not sign this report for a couple of reasons. Primarily because I don't think that this is prudent as far as what we're doing. I don't believe that we should be reducing the levy. Not that I believe that we should be increasing taxes every time we have to, but I think that there's times when we need to really look seriously at this. And yes, right now our numbers are coming up and they look pretty good as far as sales tax. But as all of us know, when this council was seated, we did have some financial issues and we ended up having to do a huge increase in 1 year. My concern is that that we don't want to end up having that same problem again in the near future. We don't know what the economy is going to do. We don't know what it's going to do next week, let alone next year. We're estimating that we're going to continue to see the revenue growth that we have been in sales tax. I have some grave concerns about that. We all know that as a council, we've supported things such as increases in pays for all of our unions. We have statutory requirements that we have to cover. All I was looking to do was cover those statutory requirements of pension funds with our increase. But if this is the direction that we want to go, I will support the negative increase. However, I do believe that all of us need to be prepared to come out very carefully and look very, very carefully at this budget that's coming up and make sure that you're prepared to say we're going to cut, because we're going to need to make some serious cuts in the budget.
Thank you, Alderman Levin.
Well, I think this is a compromise. When we came out for the truth in taxation estimate, I think we were talking about a 3.5% increase, and staff recommended a 3% increase from that. By the time we got to the committee and started debating it, there were proposals between 0%. Actually, there was a positive number. 0% was talked about. Something as much as a 3% decrease was talked about. And this is a number that had careful consideration by the members of the committee. I think we all have to recognize that our staff is very conservative in terms of how we do our budgeting here in the city, and that's why we are in such good fiscal shape. I think I can speak for the council generally, although that's always dangerous, but I think we've tried to mind our monies here to keep a lid on taxes, particularly since we did have that big tax increase back in 2009. I don't think we can do any more. I think this is a number we can do. We show revenue sources are trending. We're projecting where we're going to be at the end of the fiscal year, which is months down the road. Sales tax are projected to be up. Real estate tax transfers are up slightly. Permits are up only slightly, but they're nowhere near where they used to be before 2009. And some of the sources of our revenue are actually lower. Our second quarter projections for the general fund include utility taxes that are $269,000 in round numbers under budget. Some of that's maybe, and again, we can't predict everything. The gas share of the utility tax is almost $112,000 negative, perhaps because of the light winter we had last year. The telecommunications tax is down by $127,000 tax revenues to us, probably because people aren't using landlines as much. The fines and penalties portion of our budget is also down about $75,000 projected over the year before. So the committee looked at this. We have as a policy that we want 3 to 4 months of reserves revenues. That means we need about $12.7 million in reserves. Over the last few years, we've built it up from only a few $1,000,000 to now we're at 10.7. So we've made some remarkable progress in making the city very financially stable, but we still have a couple $1,000,000 to go. And again, these are projected numbers. It also has to be noted that a significant amount of the contributions that we have this year that we're talking about leading to the excess or the reserves are one-shot deals. We had a one-time payment of $382,000 to a large sales tax item that will not be repeated. We had 2 state road grants that total $825,000 that really were related to last year, but due to the state's tardiness in paying came in this year. So those aren't real numbers. That's over $1 million. That's the $1.4 million right there in the surplus that's not really sustainable, but one-shot deals. My concern of going any different than this and why this is supportable is that we don't have a crystal ball to tell us where we're going to go in the future. Some would say we're out of the woods, the recession is ending. Others, not in city circles, but economic circles, say you could expect some aftershocks in the recession. So we're being conservative again. I could have supported a 0%. We did 0% last year. But the committee's position is a compromise, and it's a 1% decrease, which I'm going to support as well. I think that we have a couple of things acting in our favor. One is we're heading into an 8-month budget year, so we will very soon be visiting the budget again, and that gives us the opportunity to see if those additional savings are there and if lower levies can be there in the future. But this is something that was carefully studied by the Finance Committee, and I strongly encourage the members of the council to support it.
Thank you, Alderman York. Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Your Honor. There's been a lot of really great points brought up here tonight, and I agree with Alderman Levin and Alderman Hipskin that the last committee meeting we had was, truly the art of compromise in government, and it's an art that's not practiced all that well lately. I came in and started at a lower number and was able to understand the concerns by the committee members, and I didn't come in with a lower number just out of the hat. I had very lengthy discussions with city staff about elements of the financial statements and understood what I was doing when I was making my proposal, but certainly respected the committee when we came to an agreement on this. Just to remind everybody, give a little bit of the history, last year at the same time, actually it was 2 weeks later in December, we were looking at a favorable number of about $839,000, and we were contemplating a tax increase of about $200,000. And at that time, we passed on the $200,000 and set it at 0. And that number represented about 24% of the favorable number. Last year's favorable number was very similar to this year's in the fact that it was made up of elements that were primarily one-time hits, as everybody said tonight. So we took a leap of faith last year and said, let's not get into our taxpayers' pockets any further right now. And looking at it again this year, I kind of applied the same principles. I did exactly the same thing. So a couple weeks ago, I talked about being consistent. Alderman Levin has talked about being conservative. I looked at the number this year at just under 1.4 million. The number I proposed was about an 18% amount of that 1.4 million, my initial proposal. What we settled on was about $88,000 in a tax decrease to the taxpayers of Elmhurst, which is about 6.4% of the favorable position in our budget as of the 6-month numbers. So like I said in the last meeting, this very much to me represents a movie and a pizza versus going to Vegas for the weekend, as far as a celebration is concerned on our success with our financial results. As I indicated, and it's been brought up here tonight, this has been a team effort. We're ahead because we all work hard and we work smart. It starts at city staff, from the guys in the garage to the city manager's office. We get great information to work with from the financial reporting department. While it seems hard, everything is right there for us and we can make decisions. I certainly understand that we don't have a crystal ball and we don't know exactly what is going to happen a year down the road. But another thing that I wanted to bring up is tonight is on our consent agenda, tonight alone, just so everybody can understand, and some of it comes out of the capital improvement fund and some of it comes out of the operating fund, but tonight in 3 contracts that we did, we in effect saved $70,000 in our budget with 3 items: on the dump truck with a snowplow, on the 2 caravans, and on replacement lockers for the police. So on top of the 1.3 that we've established some more savings here tonight by being good shoppers, by looking for the appropriate items to replace items that we have with us currently. So I'm proud that this council and the leadership has presided over a point where when we came into office, we were projecting the general fund balance to be at $3.75 million at the end of that budget year. When we finished, through some hard work by city staff and by some difficult decisions on this council, we finished that year at $4.75 million in the general fund. In 3 short years, if, in quotation marks, things go the way they're projected to go, we're going to be nearly $11 million in the general fund by the end of this year. And that is a substantial increase in 3 years in what I still hear everybody talking about, difficult economic conditions. And I understand they are difficult, but we're doing a darn good job of managing them, and I ask for support on this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tax rate levy discussion. Where do I start? What it comes down to for me, I think that what we know today, it looks like we're going to have additional funds in our general fund compared to where we thought we would be last year, which is definitely a good thing. I am concerned with the pattern that we're heading down, and let me go into a little bit of detail there. In 2009, we did almost an 80% increase in the levy, 79.5 tax rate percent change. And then we steadily decreased it since there. I think that it's not prudent of us to now go about and reducing the tax rate levy. The reason being is that I think we should sustain what we have today, and I believe should be a 0% increase like last year. We have a lot of contractual obligations, specifically union contractual obligations, which will only be increasing in the upcoming years. But we're making a recommendation that we reduce our overall tax rate levy. And some could say that, you know, it's only a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there, but to me it's a big concern. I hope that the discussion, and I'm not making any accusation here, has nothing to do with the upcoming election year. The reason why I say that is because in my time, I don't remember the last time we actually did a decrease. It's definitely been a while if it has, but probably within the last 10 years or so. I think that what should be done and what would be prudent would be a 0% increase from last year. Alderman Hipskin made mention, if we decrease this, it's, well, I can't quote him because it was a few people ago, but what I took away from his points was that the residents would see a tax break from the city of Elmhurst. That's not essentially correct. Just because we would lower, which is being proposed here today, the tax rate levy, if the EAV, which is predicted, goes down, it's simple math. The city of Elmhurst line actually might go up for every resident because you're still asking for, I don't remember the number, let's just use, if it's a 0% increase, it would be $8.8 million. But if the total levy of the city of Elmhurst goes down, simple multiplication would say that your actually city of Elmhurst line item on your tax bill would actually increase. So just because you hear the percentages from the previous year, please don't walk away thinking my city of Elmhurst line item on my tax bill is going to go down. That's not essentially true. We'll see once they do an overall EAV of the city of Elmhurst and how it breaks out, but it could actually go up. But back to everything else, back to the levy at hand, I think the right thing to do, as Alderman Levin actually stated, and once I make the motion, hopefully I could garner his support, is along the lines of a 0% increase in the levy compared to last year. Last year's levy, subtotal city tax levy without debt service and without the Elmhurst Hospital new growth was $8,835,952. That is my proposal. We should move forward with a 0%. The crystal ball, at least as of today, says we're getting more funds than we expected, so we shouldn't raise it. Let's be conservative here. I think that the finance director would appreciate us at least keeping status quo and not reducing our current tax rate levy. It would be a great thing to tell in this upcoming election year, tell all my residents that I reduced the total tax rate levy. But let's keep it real here today. What we really need to do is make hard decisions, and a hard decision is to keep the tax rate levy the same as last year. We have union contracts, as I stated. Potentially, we just did an $800,000 study of our storm and sanitary issues here in Elmhurst. If we're going to actually make some of those improvements, we're going to need some funds. So we should continue to build up our accounts when we need to make those improvements, when we need to...
Point of order.
Sure.
Is this a motion? If it is, why are we debating the motion before there's a second?
I didn't make a motion, sir. I'm actually talking.
So
I guess the point of order is for my discussion.
It's not a motion, because you've indicated that you were going to make a motion.
I'm gonna, correct.
Okay.
That's in the
All right.
future. Thank you.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Alderman.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as I was saying, we definitely have things coming up. My motion would be for a 0% tax rate levy increase, and therefore the city tax levy without debt service would remain at $8,835,952.
And second by Alderman Pezza. Discussion? Alderman York.
First of all, I'd like to just, reply to the fact that Alderman Bram said that in past city councils have not reduced or held flat. What happened is in the past, but some of those times were when the ship was sinking, and today the water seems to be rising just a little bit. So I think we have to kind of look around, as I tried to point out at the Economic Times, and saying we're in a place of improvement versus today. I believe we're in a place of improvement. Can't look forward into the future and predict that it's going to go on forever and ever. But several years prior to the 2009 big decision that we made, the economy and a lot of things were going downhill, and that simply isn't the case today. With regards to the levy, and if I'm wrong, I'll ask Marilyn Gaston to help me out here, but we levy a dollar amount. And so the dollar amount that we levy, which in our report is proposing to be less, is going to be split amongst all the property owners in Elmhurst. So there's no way it can raise some people's taxes perhaps, and other people's are going to drop even more. But at the end of the day, we're going to have $88,000 less dollars come into the city coffers from property tax revenue of the property tax payers in Elmhurst. So I just want to make that perfectly clear. Am I correct, Marilyn? Thank you.
But it depends on your assessment.
Any other discussion or questions? Alderman Levin.
And just to follow up first on Alderman York's comment, what that means is if the property values go down, everyone's goes down. It'll be divided up based on those lower values, so we're still going to have the same dollar amount coming in. If I were the economic czar, I might have gone ahead and agreed with you on that 0% increase, which was my original proposal, being a little more conservative. There were some who wanted to to lower the levy by additional percentage points. So I think what is being presented and is the committee's compromise report after very careful analysis and good discussion. So instead of going with what I might personally choose, I'm going to stick with the majority report, but I understand your position.
Alderman Pezza.
Thank you, Mayor. Golly gee, I bet the taxpayers wish there was an election every year. Wouldn't that be something? I bet we'd be finding ways every year to step up to the plate and roll up our sleeves and make cuts. And what happened to crying and screaming and stamping our feet that if we don't raise taxes, we're going to lose half our police and our firemen and everything's going to burn down and burglaries will never be stopped? I hear that every year, and all of a sudden now, it's not part of the equation anymore. We're going to reduce. Had we not perhaps raised taxes 79% a couple of years ago, which I did not support either, maybe this year we wouldn't be talking the way we're talking for whatever reason may be. And for the record, I beg to differ. We say we raised taxes 0 last year. My tax bill went up. We raised the levy $200,000 to take care of the hospital. It affected my tax bill, so that's on a personal note. I just find this whole thing quite entertaining, and I want to do what's right for everybody, and I guess I'm just speechless at this point, because I think it's entertaining is probably the right word. Thank you.
Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I tell you, I just can't wait until we synchronize our budget and the tax levy process so that we're not talking about the levy without having had the same discussion about what exactly we're spending the money on. It'll make our lives so much easier. I think I need some clarification here, because now we've got these two proposals in front of us, but all that really talks about is the tax levy without taking into account the additional levy that we're adding on for the potential growth of Elmhurst Memorial Hospital's potential property tax. Because we're only talking about part of the number, and I don't think we're giving residents the whole picture here. If we say we're going to levy 1% less for the city and then add in the hospital's new growth, we're actually levying 1.5% more than we were last year, accounting for the hospital's new growth. So at a 0% levy, does that mean that it's really 2.5% higher? And so everybody's property tax bill is going to go up by 2.5%. There's no magic. The levy, total levy is going to go up, and Elmhurst Memorial Hospital is actively engaged in legislation with the state to avoid ever having to pay the property tax that is a fluke. It's only there because of a fluke that the land that they sit on is even taxable. So I'm having trouble supporting pretty much any of these scenarios. State's already come up with a legislative fix for certain categories of hospitals. Nothing leads me to believe that they're not going to make a category fix for all classes of hospitals in the state. And I kind of think we're jumping the gun here. We're talking about an additional $423,000 that's going to sit in a separate isolated account on the very likely chance that we would pay it back, but we may not even have to collect it in the first place. So my property taxes went up for the city portion of my tax bill last year, despite our zero growth levy. And I am not comfortable with kind of either of these scenarios. I know the motion on the table now is to talk about a 0% city increase, but we can't talk about it in a vacuum, because really that affects everything that tumbles down the line and that goes into the entire tax bill. I think we need to talk about that too.
Okay. Anybody else? Alderman Plumsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first want to thank the city staff and the committee for their work on this. And I do think that I was able to attend the committee meeting, that was a great example of compromise. There were numbers of 3% increase, as Alderman Hiskin, Alderman York said, and 3% decrease, and the compromise was a 1% decrease. I was hoping for 0%. For some of the reasons that were stated mostly by Alderman Levin, that there are a lot of unknowns, but I do think that sales numbers are looking good, and I do think we can allow for more efficiencies and make some changes. And again, that will be easier to do next year once our budget process lines up. But I think we're asked to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, but also set the levy at a point that allows for quality city services. So I feel that I've got to support a 0% increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Alderman Levin. I saw Alderman Mulliner with a hand up. I wasn't sure, making sure everybody has their time.
I hate to do this, but I feel compelled to say that the careful work and the very good work that this committee has done is in no way tied to the election, and it's not submitted for anyone's entertainment. I will say that from working on this committee, Alderman York puts in more time than probably any other alderman in terms of the financial analysis. And I've had the benefit of many good meetings with him where he has presented that. So I just want to assure the people and the other members of this council that there was no discussion of the election. I can guarantee you that there's probably a couple of people on the committee that aren't up for election. I think I can safely say that. And I think I'll just leave it at that. This is careful financial analysis. I can appreciate if other aldermen feel it should be 0%, but don't demean the process.
Very good. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The part of the committee meeting that I was able to attend, I believe Alderman York's statement on his original proposal, which is not before us today, was that that number was a gut check, what he felt in his gut. And, you know, to a certain degree, I think that's what we're all doing up here because none of us have a crystal ball. We go on the numbers that we have. But I would like to get some additional insight from the committee in regards to where this number came from. Because if moving forward, if we go with anything other than a 0% increase, I would expect during our budget discussions, we're talking about cutting in certain areas to make up that difference. So my question to the committee itself is, where did this, what cuts have been discussed, if any, or is that being left as a TBD in the upcoming budget discussions? And the other part of my statement is in regards to compromise. I think the committee did come to a compromise. But quite honestly, it's not only up to the committee to come to a compromise, it's up to the 14 aldermen sitting up here to come to a compromise. From a negative 3% or 2.5% proposal, and some wanted actually an increase, I think a 0% is a compromise. So I applaud the committee coming to a compromise, but I hope that we as a full city council come to a compromise and meet at 0% compared to an increase percentage or a decrease percentage. Thank you.
Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. I can answer Alderman Brown's question with regard to cuts. Basically, if you look at where we are today, be it $1.4 million favorable to budget, seeing the revenue numbers increasing would lead you to believe that next year we're going to have more revenue. More revenue is coming to this budget, but not through property taxes. So if, again, got to get your crystal ball out, and none of us have that, but if sales taxes keep ticking along, you know, one thing we have coming online next year is we've got a grocery store, a high-grossing grocery store coming online next year at some point in time. We should see some additional sales tax revenue from that. We hope that we continue to see additional sales tax revenues from the existing businesses in town as well. So to talk about cuts is premature in front of the budget at this point in time, at least in my opinion. I very firmly believe in offering what I offered initially, that we're going to see revenue growth outside of the property tax compartment, outside of that bucket. So we'll talk about cuts when the budget comes up, and I'm hopeful that we'll have more revenue to be talking about to begin with. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Levin?
And I would second that and add, remember, we had to raise the property taxes so significantly because all of our other key sources of revenue, our car dealers were not selling cars. New homes weren't being built. Permits weren't being pulled. So many of our other sources of revenue were failing that we had to raise property taxes. Now we're seeing some of those coming back, not to exactly where they were, but that's why we are not necessarily talking about cuts, but just being paid from a different revenue source.
Very good. We could do a voice vote on the amendment?
No, because of the roll call. On the amendment, I think you're going to have a roll call on everything, and the amendment is the first item, which is Alderman Graham's amendment, which should be called first.
This amendment would be to go to a zero levy And I would ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Graham.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
No.
Leader.
Nay.
Dunn.
No.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
No.
Hipskin.
No.
Healy.
No.
Levin.
No.
Kennedy.
No.
Morley, absent. Wagner.
No.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Four ayes, 9 nays, and 1 absent.
4 ayes, 9 nays, 1 absent. The amendment to go to a zero levy fails. We'll go to the underlying motion, which is the majority report. Clerk Spencer, please read the roll. Call the roll, please.
Okay, Hipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Morley, absent. Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Pezza.
No.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
One more. Do I have one more? No, that's it. Okay, it's 12 ayes, 1 nays, and 1 absent.
12 ayes, 1 nay. 1 nay?
1 absent.
1 nay and 1 absent. The majority report passes, and we move on to reports and recommendations. First on the item on the agenda is a report recommendations from me. I'm going to keep mine very short, and I will speak later as we will be doing a recognition here closer to actually in a few seconds. But some people are questioning the process. When does succession take place, et cetera? So this is my last public meeting as your mayor for a city council meeting. I will be serving as mayor through December 3rd. Which is a Monday, and I will be sworn in at DuPage County by hopefully Jim Ryan, Attorney General of Illinois, at 6 o'clock. At that time, I will be resigning as my post as mayor officially, but this will be my last public meeting. That evening is a council meeting, and it's the first council meeting in December, and the aldermen will elect a mayor pro temp to serve in the interim and through April, and where this town will elect a new mayor. So some people are questioning process, how that works, et cetera. But that replacement temporary mayor will be a vote of the aldermen and not a vote of mine. So everybody understands that process. And any other reports or recommendations at this time? I do want to give a shout out to to the run for Spring Road. I think there was some misinformation about, is that money going to charity? I thought that was great. YMCA, Special Kids, I think that's fantastic. I am so looking forward to the turkey trot this Thursday. We're expecting over 8,000 runners and walkers, and probably see people out there in their robes and all that fun stuff. So raising money for great causes, and I think that's what we do in this town. We really step up, and when there's a cause, we've got people willing to carry the flag and do the right thing. So kudos, and just look forward to hopefully better communication between the groups so we can pull this off and do it right. So that's it from me. I will talk a little bit later as some of the accomplishments. I think that we've done some great things, but I'll leave that for a little bit later. At this time, any other reports? Alderman York.
One thing I think we forgot to do under announcement is on Friday after Thanksgiving, we have the tree lighting ceremony downtown at City Center. I believe that's at 5:30, but check the website.
Absolutely.
That's a big thing.
Yep.
And then also, if I could, I'd just like to maybe have the city attorney make it clear to people in the room, because we seemingly got scolded during public comment about what we were talking about with regard to the secession. And all we did was talk procedurally about that, so I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not, but we just had to have a clear understanding in the room of what we were up against here and the different options we had with how the mayor is, okay. Okay, that's it, thanks.
Okay, very good. Anybody else reports? Alderman Dunn.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just want to point out in your supplemental packet, there is a memo from our Director of Public Works on, particularly on the refuse and recycling contract that's been under development over the last few months, and the city staff has been working very hard, and particularly Director Hughes on this. We had an item, a particular aspect of the RFQ was the number of totes and the size of totes, and it was determined at that point that we would remove the 35-gallon tote from the RFQ because of the lack of success that many other cities have had with that very small one. So I just wanted to point that out, and if there's any other issues with that particular item, we will continue to talk about this item.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Brown.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And Alderman Dunn brings up a point in regards to the RFQ for the refuse proposal or contract, if you would. I just want to publicly voice, and any of my Third Ward residents, feel free to contact me. My concern, I don't know if the RFQ went out as of yet, but my concern of eliminating the 35-gallon option. In the past, Elmhurst has had the 35-gallon option as well as a 96. When I left the committee meetings discussion, there was 3 options, a 35, one in the middle, which I forgot the size, and a 96. And I'm worried why we're going away from all, no disrespect to other communities, but why would we go away from the smallest option, especially from a standpoint of we have a ton of seniors here in the city of Elmhurst. I think the most in DuPage County, so I'm not sure why we would be eliminating the option that they would be most favorable for going forward. So I just want to put that out there for any of my residents to contact me if they have any concern with that change.
Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Bram, are you asking for an explanation, or are you just offering the opportunity for people to speak with you? I'm not sure.
Both. The explanation has been stated, and the explanation, according to Alderman Dunn at least, is that it hasn't been found successful in other communities, so...
Point of order, this is not an agenda item. If you're making an announcement, I respect that, but we
And
can't
in fairness to my family, and Francesca's was waiting for us, I like to try to move along here. You'll have debate and discussion on this in the future, and I don't...
Understood. I was just responding to a question proposed to me.
Right. No problem. Very good. Okay. Anybody else for reports? We're good? Other business? No other business?
Oh.
Alderman Healy.
Sorry, these are 2 quick questions. If we can have a quick update on any recent conversations between the city and ComEd or an update on improvements, even if you can say that be on the next agenda. And then the second question would be an update on the intergovernmental agreement between us and District 205 on TIF 4. Are there any updates on either that you can provide quickly?
City Manager Grabowski.
I will gladly put a comment update on the next agenda so that we can have full information, because I don't have an update for you tonight. As far as the IGA with District 205, we've been working back and forth. We recently submitted a new proposal to the school district. I believe it was brought up at the last district board meeting by one of the board members, and they will be looking at it and getting back to us with comments.
Is there an estimated or a target completion date for that agreement?
As soon as possible. We've not set a specific date. I know that the school district wanted to get it done sooner than later, as did we, but we've not set a specific date as far as getting that done.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to recognition here at the end here. I know Alderman Leader had a hand up. Mr. Alderman Leader.
Mr. Mayor, it is not easy being a mayor. Citizens want a quick response to their needs and wants. This means they want a decision in their favor at the expense of someone else. But mayors and aldermen must conform to the democratic process that demands that compromises be made between conflicting constituencies. We must balance the rights of the many against the rights of the few. The mayor is at the heart of this perfect storm. Mayor DeCiani, like all of us, has strengths and weaknesses. In the end, he is a very human man, slowly and successfully ascending the tedious slope that leads to the broad uplands of principled political leadership. This is not a path for the faint of heart. The mayor makes a choice which few make, to put himself before the public, to be a visible and vulnerable target, and ask for support in his efforts to improve our community. Constituents often demand more of the mayor than of themselves, but that is the way it should be in a democracy. Assuming office, Pete experienced the sharp upheaval of the ritual of previous time passing into the present. He was soon exposed to the sharpest, most violent tests. He has had to contend with the worst economic crises since the Great Depression of the 1930s. A ferocious Mother Nature on the rampage, and the many and spectacular failures of ComEd. He had to struggle with crises that never seemed to end, and to surmount difficulties that often seemed insurmountable. He met each of these formidable trials with strength, ability, and courage. In spite of these great challenges, he has achieved much. He will leave behind his many accomplishments in the field of economic growth and development. Mariano's, the North York TIF, the Addison Street development will ever shine brightly. And that's just some, to mention a few. Pete is by nature a fighter whose natural instinct is to find the enemy, attack him, and hold him until victory is won. But it is Pete the peacemaker that many of us will remember, because when faced with difficult personal and political decisions, he often displayed a larger breadth of view and a desire for mutual understanding and conciliation. In my personal dealings with him, I have found him always to be a courteous, sensitive, considerate, warm-hearted person. Mayor, you have wrestled with the boulders of Elmhurst history, and you have avoided agreements with chaos. Like all of us, you have been bewitched by the voice of service to your fellows. You are leaving, but Elmhurst remains in its composite mind and personality, with its hovering ghosts of the past, still full of purpose, magic, and alive with the force of destiny. Mayor, you have never attempted to hug safety. You have always spent of yourself. To live is to strive, to venture, to win or to lose. To live is to assume responsibilities and always accept duty. Pete, you have never been boring, and you have always been fun. I will miss you.
Thank you, Alderman. Just if that's the Italian and the Irish lady sitting in front there, my mother. Hey, man. That's where the fire comes from. Oh.
So how do I go after that? That was awesome. That was beautiful. It really was, and it embodied a lot of what our mayor is. And I saw the assistant city manager bring out the rocking chair. Pete, that's not for you. You can look at it. You can maybe try it tonight. Do a couple times. I don't want you on that. Go to the county board. It's not a rocking chair for you.
Absolutely.
So, knowing I can't top Alderman Leader's piece, I just want to share one story. It was during the flood. So Pete and I, our paths crossed, and it was about maybe 4 in the afternoon, and we were on the south side of Elmhurst. And Pete, stand up. Pete always dresses perfectly. I mean, this guy stands up. His shoes are shined. His pants are pressed. I mean, his shirt is always. This guy is dressed impeccably. We're out. The storm is gone, but there's streets and houses flooded. I've got a big truck that we go through down the street, and we step out onto the sidewalk, and we go in. And there's a friend of mine, a guy who works for me, his basement's flooded. And anybody who's ever had a flooded basement, I mean, it's devastating. He comes out, and I introduce Pete to him, and the guy says, "You've got to do something about this." And Pete's walked out, and he's like, "You've got to see this." So my friend brings him in the house. It's a tri-level house. The first level is fine, and it's all clean and everything. You go on the second level, and you squish into the water. And then the third level is literally this deep in water. Pete, dressed impeccably, my friend's in shorts, walks down to the third level. Pete walks down into that water. I didn't walk into the water. I didn't want to get all wet in my nice clothes. He walks right down. He was with them. The compassion that he had for that person at that time. And I think you were probably a mayor for how long? 2-3 weeks? It was early on, and you just walked right into that. And I'll never forget that, because because I didn't know Pete before he was mayor. I knew him barely, but we didn't hang around. And I'll never forget that, when he walked right into that basement, regardless of his shirt, his tie, his pants, anything, right into that basement, walked down there. I was like, wow. I didn't follow him. I wasn't that compassionate, but Pete was, and that's what he brought to being a mayor, that compassion. Thanks, Pete. We'll miss you.
Peter, let me jump in here real quick. A couple things. So this is obviously a little bittersweet, I think, for a lot of us. But to look out in the audience, and I've certainly known the DeCiani family for long enough that it's, I feel like some breakfast for dinner, But there's a great movie, It's a Wonderful Life. At the end of the movie, the book opens up and it says, "No man is a failure who has friends," and that's obvious, here tonight. And you'll never ever be a failure. You certainly taught me quite a few things. We came up together on the dais, and you bleed for this town. A lot of things get seen and heard, and nothing of importance a lot of times gets seen or heard, and that sometimes it's unfortunate. But I think you did a great job as my mayor, and I think you're a good person. You're a great man, and you got a lot ahead of you. I know the county's a stepping stone, I'm sure, but wish you the best of luck.
Thanks,
Congrats.
Patrick. Mr. Chairman. Alderman Levin.
Well, Mr. Mayor, as I say for the last time tonight, and as you move on, we have a unique history. We were political opponents, and I think it's somewhat of a credit to how you handle things that we not only made it through the campaign, but that you were in such good working stead with me that you appointed me initially to this aldermanic seat, and I have always appreciated that. I also know that you've been open with me to honest debate. You've had ideas that I didn't agree with and vice versa. But I know that every time that we had a debate, there was one thing that was clear in my mind, is that you, in your heart, believe that we have to do what's best for Elmhurst. And I think, as Alderman Leader alluded to, this city is in far better financial shape than it was the day you took office. You did work very hard personally to bring Mariano's and to do some of the economic development that is going to be so important to this town that will support our 1% decrease. I think that most people who haven't been in public office don't realize the sacrifices that are required, the hours away from your family, the constant criticism, the finger pointing, and sometimes there's almost a mean-spiritedness that isn't really fair, because all in all, it's public service. You're not doing it, no one up here is doing it for the pay, and the mayor's job is certainly far more exhausting than that of an alderman. You've taken it on in good spirit. Things that I've come to learn about you is I once met someone that didn't know you. I don't know who that guy's name was, but I don't think I've ever come across more than one person that didn't know you. And it shows the tireless energy you have to get out there, to meet people, to learn what their concerns are. And I'd also second, I don't think there's anyone around that loves Elmhurst more than you do. So as you leave this dais and move on, do great things for the county, and thank you for your service and friendship.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Ely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to point out first that Mayor DeCiani, soon-to-be County Board Member DeCiani, is a member of the 5th Ward, and he, along with Sean Noonan, also a 5th Ward resident, will be representing us on the county board, and I, for one, am very pleased about that, and look forward to your service on the county board on behalf of all of District 2, but I know particularly Elmhurst. You do a job that most of us couldn't do, that most of us don't want to do, and you do it as well as you can and as hard as you can, and your work ethic, quite honestly, is second to none from what I've seen. You're everywhere, at all places, at all times, and I admire and respect you for that. I am proud to have served on the council with you. I have not always agreed with you, nor have you always agreed with me, but we have agreed on most things together, and that's a good thing. That's what makes democracy go around. But in the end, what I am very pleased about is knowing that your career is moving on and that you will continue to work as hard as you possibly can on behalf of the Elmhurst residents. But if you want to work a little harder on behalf of the 5th Ward Elmhurst residents, that's okay too. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Kennedy, housekeeping?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to take an opportunity to, first of all, wish you the best of luck in your new role. I'm sure you're going to do very well. We weren't always in agreement in everything that happened over the last 3.5 years, but I always knew you had the best interests of the residents of Elmhurst in everything that you did. So, I think you need to look back and just say that Elmhurst is a better place than when you took over. Hold your head high, and again, you'll do great on the county board. Good luck.
Thank you, Alderman. President, Alderman Dunn.
Well, thank you, Mayor DeCiani. I remember the night we were sworn in together. On the way here, I was thinking about it. I was like, holy cow, that was almost 4 years ago, and it certainly doesn't seem that long ago. Time has flown past, and I remember that evening how excited and honored and full of energy and fire we both were, and kind of always had that little joke about being the 2 Italians elected that night. And every time it stormed, I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, I'm glad I'm not Pete. I give you a lot of credit and a lot of respect for the way you handled all those situations. I would not have wanted to be in your shoes during all those times. I think you really stepped up to the plate, and I think it's been said before, you make sure you are everywhere, you try to be everywhere. I give you a lot of credit for the time, energy, and effort you've put into this, and I am sure you're going to into your new seat with the same fire and energy and dedication, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you. Alderman Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor DeCiani. One thing I really learned about Pete was he definitely puts Elmhurst first. He is a lifer for Elmhurst, and I just really admire his passion, the hard work, the time he puts in. It's really second to none. I just was very happy to have known Pete while on council and also prior. Pete is just always has Elmhurst on his mind, and he's constantly marketing the city because he believes in it so much. And we're lucky that he served in that role and was able to continue to sell Elmhurst as a great place to live, to remain here, and to move here from somewhere else. I know that my family and I are extremely happy, fortunate to have landed here about 5 years ago. Not just on the selling of Elmhurst, but just focusing on the people of Elmhurst and providing service. Just a commendable job that Pete did. The flooding was mentioned. Very passionate about helping us to correct those and reaching out to those in need. And the 100-year storms that we've had, quite a few of those in the past few years. Alderman Hipskin talked about a particular instance that he had with Mayor DeCiani this past summer when we got hit very hard with a storm and devastated with power outages also, especially up in the second ward. I talked to the mayor and we were wondering what we could do for the people up there, and he contacted ComEd, brought in some cooling vans because it was pushing 100 degrees right around 4th of July. Brought those in, and I went to visit the people in there, and I found Pete there also. He wasn't dressed as nice as when you saw him, Steve. He did have some shorts on because he was going to a picnic. But he was there supporting the residents, and that's just the way he is. So while I'm disappointed to see Pete go, I know he'll always be acting in the best interests of Elmhurst and those and the people of DuPage County, and I want to wish you luck in your next endeavor. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn. Alderman Plumsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So here we are, gathered around to say farewell to our mayor, and the timing is unusual, as this is typically done in the spring, but I think it is fitting that it is Thanksgiving, as there are many parallels. Like a family, the council changes and evolves, just as new faces appear around the dinner table throughout the years. The body of elected officials sitting around the dais transforms. And just as the responsibility of leading a toast at Thanksgiving dinner can be assigned to someone new, from time to time our mayor steps aside for a new leader. Like traditional Thanksgiving dinners with extended family, on some occasions we gather up here and have lighthearted exchanges and we laugh, but we also share uncomfortable moments of tension and spirited disagreements. And as the purpose of Thanksgiving dinner is to reflect, recognize all that is positive, and be grateful, we are here now to look back on the contributions of Mayor DeCiani just the same. Mayor DeCiani, thank you for your dedicated service, for without it, the city would not be where it is today. I wish you the best as you continue to serve our community in a new role. Thank you.
Thank you. Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First and foremost, I want to congratulate you on your upward move to county board. I'm sure you will serve the residents of the whole county as well as Elmhurst well. The second thing I want to state, being half Italian myself, I know how food and drink is very important, so I don't want to reiterate what some of my other aldermen have stated. But I do want to highlight three things that I see as three of your strongest areas, and that is your passion. I have seen your passion, no matter if we're on the same side or opposite sides of any issue, that you've always wanted the best for Elmhurst, and I appreciate and respect that. Second being your compassion. As some of the other aldermen have already stated, you not only go at an issue or go at an area of concern for the residents just with your head, but also with your heart, and I also respect that. And I think your third strength that I have seen, and hopefully we'll all be rewarded for in the future, is your passion for economic development. Mariano's will be that initial staple, but more to come from that. I know that you have tried to hunt down and bring many businesses here to Elmhurst, and that is going to help not only the current council, future councils, but every single resident here in the city of Elmhurst in the near term as well as the future. So thank you, and once again, congratulations.
Thank you. Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. I first got to know you a few years ago through some mutual friends on ECAF and was just amazed by, as Alderman Levin said, all the people that you know, all the people in town that you know, and all the people in town that you've helped. And I remember also back to our election night, and I remember a bunch of us getting together one night after we were all elected and having a celebratory drink. I think when we came on, there was a new mayor and 5 new aldermen and a new treasurer. So it was a pretty new staff. We were faced with some pretty daunting conditions. And to no surprise, you rose even higher, stepped up for the city, helped lead, helped garner support from the community in the task force, and led them to make some tough but needed decisions. And I will always respect you for that. I always know that you love Elmhurst, you love your family, and there's a lot of that coming back at you too. So congratulations on your victory for county board, and keep up the good work there. And Elmhurst couldn't be happier for everything that you'll do for us in the future.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you.
You and I go back a long ways. We've had our differences on the council, but you've done some wonderful things, and I know where your heart is. It's always been in Elmhurst. It always will be in Elmhurst. And congratulations on your election to the county board. I know you'll be representing Elmhurst wholeheartedly, doing everything you can for us, and I know you'll have a great future at the county board. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you. And the queen of Elmhurst, Clerk Spencer.
I just have a few words, and it's just best of luck to you, Pete, and thanks for leaving me and probably dethroning me, because I don't think I can keep my position with anyone else, but maybe, I don't know. But thank you for your support.
You'll always be the queen, Patty. Alderman Gudenkauf.
Well, 14 people have spoken before me, Pete, and I think they've summed up the whole of the city's feelings for you. I don't know that there's anything I can add to that, because clearly people have come to respect you, and all I want to do is wish you the very best and great success in your next endeavor. I think you're going to do very, very well. So thank you, Pete, for being here for us for almost 4 years.
Thank you. All right, well, I just want to say, because everybody's spoken, I just want to say, I could not have done what we have done in the last 4 years if it wasn't for the leadership up here. I mean, the alderman doesn't vote unless there's a tie, and I've only had to vote, I think, 3 or 4 times, which is a good thing. But we've had many challenges. We came in with virtually no money in the bank. I think we had about $3 or $4 million. At one time, this city council had almost $20-some million in the bank. And now
3.7 to 11 million.
3.7 to $11 million. So we've really turned things around. We've performed. We've provided services. We honored some police officers that did some heroic things today. And that's what it's all about. It's about delivering quality services to our residents. You know, I signed the first beam on that hospital. It's got my dad's little letter to my father. So we got to see the hospital go up, and it's just a phenomenal facility. You know, almost a $500 million investment in this town, almost 4,000 employees, and we saw it, you know, from start to finish. We finished a fire station that was underway already, and thanks to the previous council for that handoff was a great thing, and we keep this town safe. We were, I think, pioneers. You know, the future of this council really is going to be over the next 23 years, because what we just did up in North York is going to be a legacy that we will, I think, be very, very proud of. And what Mariano's coming in this spring, and many, many more to follow. We have really laid the pathway to success for this town. There's still many, many opportunities, and I hope that this council continues to be pro-development and pro growing the tax base, which will keep our burden on our residents, but yet our quality of services at the best, and keep that burden on our residents as low as possible. So these are all great things. We built the parking deck with over 400 cars. We did it for $2 million under budget because times are tough and we got good deals. And we got about $2.5 million from Springfield that we never thought we'd get. So we've done some really, really great things. City Attorney Storino helped bring that $2.5 million home. And, you know, talk about a guy that's united this council. We made some great moves in leadership that has done that. And City Attorney Storino, I think, it deserves just the ultimate respect of everyone. I think everyone has really rallied around an attorney that is a class guy, a city manager, Grabowski, who is a class guy, and Assistant City Manager Kopp, and Marilyn, Gaston, and all the team, you know, Tom Trezine, Mike Hughes in Public Works. The list goes on, but it takes a team to really do it. And I'm very, very proud of what we put together here. I think it's been a great, for me, almost 4 years. You know, the unique thing, as I was looking back, there's never been a situation, because we've never had a mayor move to higher office. In fact, Jim Ryan called me up. He goes, "Pete, you're the first mayor to ever step up. So be proud." The doors only open occasionally, so you take them when they're open. And Lord knows we could use some help in South Elmhurst with some stormwater challenges that we still face. I felt bad for those residents that I had to be the second mayor to decide to sign a declaration of emergency for this town. It was not the easiest thing to have to do. But I'll tell you what, each and every alderman stepped up during those times and made it happen. I still have the boots in my garage. I have two different levels, one that goes up to the calf, and then I have one that goes up to like the top of my thigh. So as we got rocked with two 100-year storms in less than 45 days. So those were not easy challenges to overcome. Chris Burke, who's done a great job and examined our infrastructure and has really, I think, laid out a great plan for the future of how we can fix our problems. And that plan's really going to be in your hands. And I challenge you to, to work with, all the resources that we have here, and I'll do whatever I can at the county to bring home resources to our town. My first love is not only the girl that's in the back of the room, my wife Rose, who I met my sophomore year at Triton College, and our kids are out there, and it's getting kind of late. So, but Scott Levin, when I won the mayor thing, he goes, "Pete," he goes, "There's two differences between us." He goes, "I love one thing, that's my wife." He goes, "You love your wife first, and then you love the city second." And I really have enjoyed, and I embraced this community, which I grew up in. So I really, it's been a great 4 years. I loved every second of it, and I got no regrets, and I look forward to the future. So I thank everyone for all their relationships and working together, and sometimes we're on different pages, but at the end of the day, we got things done and we moved Elmhurst forward, and that's the bottom line. So God bless everybody. Thank you.
Rose, come on up.
If I could, I'm going to come out to this rocking chair, but I think Jane, did you bring me any running shoes so I could run to the county or no? But I'd like to invite my family up. Rose, my wife, is here. My daughter Natalie looks like she's here. I think we had I think Brianna may have gone home, but if Rose can join me, and Natalie and my ma and my sisters would like to join me up by the rocking chair, I guess I'll take my last seat here. So What's that?
Your brother, isn't that?
And my brother Joe, Uncle John.
Everybody.
The whole family, come on up. So.
That might be half the town.
Put Pete in the chair around, take up.
Joe,
Sit in the chair.
post everyone
Get
behind
around
the
Pete.
chair.
He's gonna
Yeah,
sit.
Okay, get behind the
No,
chair.
He can't sit still.
That is half the town. Wow. A hybrid garage.
Where is he? Oh.
He sat through this.
I know. I get my chair. I just got my husband.
Get your chair.
Yeah, really?
Let's see.
And it'll be one person next to me. All these
Sure, all the
Pete, you want to do your motion to adjourn while we're waiting?
I don't want to be in the picture. Should I?
Before he leaves, we got to adjourn.
Come on, Pete.
Come on, Petey.
Please,
turn it off and back.
blink the screen for a minute so there's not a...
Just hit the power. Computer.
Should I just turn the power off? Oh, well.
Formaggio, eh?
Hold on, we're gonna have, don't move the camera, go down.
You can crap it out.
So Pete, I hope you enjoy your seat now, because it's not gonna last long.
Uncle Pat.
I turned it down.
I agree.
Don't break his leg.
Worried about the chair.
Don't break the rocker, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of weak.
Public Works built that thing, man.
Rocker.
That thing is put together.
They put the lights on it wrong or something, they had to change.
Where'd they get that, at IKEA?
I move
They
we adjourn.
ordered 'em. They've got a whole storeroom full.
Pete, Mayor, motion to adjourn.
Whoops.
Order.
Exactly.
So all you did was vote on
Before I ask for an adjournment, I just want to thank many of, not only family members are out here, but a lot of the volunteers that helped that happen. Kathy Jordan, our senior commissioners here, and I thank you, Kathy, for all your hard work. All the commissioners that have served this city have also made me a good mayor and this council a good council, and I can't thank them enough as well. So with that, ask for a motion to adjourn. Alderman York with a motion, second by Alderman Hipskin. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.